This is Jets at Noon on 680 CJOB.
And good afternoon, Kelly Moore and Jim Toth with you for this Hump Day edition of Jets at Noon from the Boston Pizza Studio. And, of course, BP is your place to be for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. Today, a special guest coming up after the 12:30 news, Jim Toth. Bryan Little is going to be joining us. Of course, we're going to start the process of talking to some of the great names from the past who will be congregating in Winnipeg the weekend of October 24th and 25th for the Alumni game and then the outdoor game against the Montreal Canadiens. We don't usually agree on many things, but I think we can agree on the idea that for both you and I, Bryan Little was one of our favorite, if not our most favorite, Winnipeg Jet.
Yeah, I don't want to say he's my favorite.
Good. At least we can. That's good. At least we can disagree on something. Thank goodness.
When he joined this, I go, Bryan, you were my favorite, but you were up there.
But you were darn close.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have favorites. I have a lot of guys, and Bryan Little is at the top of the list that I enjoyed talking the sport with, talking the game with, talking life with. So I really respect Bryan Little as an athlete, and really disappointed the way his career ended. It felt really bad for him as well, but it'll be great to talk to him, get his perspective on coming back. And really, for him, maybe even a little bit more so than others. A lot of players retire and don't go out on the ice. It's different if you have to retire due to injury and can't go out on the ice. To see him back out on the ice, what that'll kind of mean to him, I think that's a much different perspective than for any of the other alumnus that are coming in. Yeah,
you try to register what the biggest reception will be. And I can't help but think Dustin Byfuglien is going to be that guy. But I wonder when Bryan steps on the ice just how much of a roar there will be at Canada Life Center for him, because there's so many things that he meant to this franchise. I've got a couple of Bryan Little memories I have jotted down. If you have your own, 204-780-6868. Of course, we will select the text of the day for Wash Method Car Wash at 690 St. Anne's Road. And you can also find them online at washmethod.com. Jim, before I share my list, anything in particular that stands out for you about Bryan Little's time as a Winnipeg Jet?
Well, there's a couple for sure. I always hearken back to a great conversation I had with him during the work stoppage or lockout, and it was their second year here, I believe. And there's a bunch of the players skating at Hockey for All Center, and a lot of them would talk after. Now, mostly Andrew Ladd would be the player that approached the situation with where the lockout was, what were the latest with the players and all this stuff. But Bryan was often, the guy I would go to say, like, what do you do during this time? And he was the one who offered up. I don't follow a lot of sports away from hockey. Mm-hmm. So life hasn't changed really much for me. I get these skates in, and he said, whatever I do. And I'm like, well, what do you do? Do you not? And he's like, no. I go, do you not on the fantasy football league?
Yeah, because I don't think he and his wife had their first child yet by that time. Yeah.
And he just got into it a little bit. He goes, I know like a lot of players watch a lot of games at night. I don't. I know a lot of players are into the NFL or the NBA. And he said, I'm not. I watch a little football here and there with the guys, but he goes, I'm not into any of that stuff. So it was interesting to get his insight on that. But my favorite moment on the ice, Kelly, was he scored the first hat trick in Jets 2.0 history. And at the time, I was getting a lot of kind comments on social media about how useless Bryan Little was and how he's blah, blah. Yeah. And I remember in another life on another station, I got so tired of people slagging Bryan Little that I sat down with their next game, and it was in Nashville. And he was on a line with Laine and Ehlers. And people kept going on about why Laine and Ehlers aren't lighting it up or having too many turnovers because of Bryan Little being such a bad center. And on one shift before the end of the first period, he had retrieved the puck 3 times, and Laine and Ehlers had turned it over 4. Mm-hmm. So, Laine was 3 of them. Little would go behind the net, get the puck, put it up the boards to one of those players, and they wouldn't, couldn't get it out. And this isn't bashing Laine or Ehlers' time. This is just they were young. They were still, learning the game. And Bryan Little was carrying them that much that every time they turned the puck over in the zone, he got it back for them 3 times in a row, and they still couldn't get it out for him. Yeah. So that's what I remember about Bryan Little. I think he was unheralded. I think he was a much better player than people give him credit for. The other thing that stands out to me off the ice is he was around in the era when concussions were at the forefront and what to do with it and to get fighting out of the game. And anybody who knows me knows that I'm not a big proponent for the stage fighting and all that, but I think fighting has been a part of the game and is a part of the game. And Bryan sat down with me and on the air gave me an interview about, he said, well, I'll tell you one thing. I've never done it and I'll never do it. That's not me. I don't have it in me. I don't know how to do it. But I have the utmost respect for those who do. And he says, I would play the game differently if fighting was not in the game. And I'm like, can you explain that? And on the air, in an interview that I ran on this station, he said, I would not go into the corners the same way if I knew a guy could crush me and not have to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was just like, well, explain that. And he's like, well, I would go in ahead on a swivel. I wouldn't go in like with my all 100 miles an hour to get the puck back and turn it around, because I feel safe. Because I know that if anybody takes a liberty on me in this corner from behind or anything else, they're going to have to answer at the time to Chris Thorber.
Yeah. And later on it was Anthony Peluso.
Yes. Yeah. And so he goes, he goes, that's why I believe. And he goes, that's why at the time when the last PA vote was 97% to keep fighting in the game, he said, I'm a big proponent. And now he might not say big, but he said, I believe in it, and I would play the game totally differently if it wasn't in it. So those are just two of the moments that stood out to me.
I'm going to go with some on-ice moments as opposed to personal interactions. But, yeah, you know what, Michael? You are bang on. Hey, fellas, I was wondering if you could provide some clarity regarding the podcast exclusive yesterday, one-day contracts. Did Bryan Little not sign a one-day contract with the Jets in October of 2024, a game against the Penguins? One of my favorite games, another was back in their first season when it was OT against the Panthers. Jets on the power play. Little ended it with a snipe. Great memory, Michael. And, Michael, you are right. October 20th, 2024, Bryan Little did sign a one-day contract with the Winnipeg Jets to retire as a Jet. So, and I remember there was a great ceremony before the game. Michael, thank you for correcting us on that, and for making sure that you hold both of our my skates to the ice, because I was the one that brought it up.
And he got on the ice for that ceremony, which was great, because everybody thought, hey, he's back on the ice.
It was fantastic. Awesome. So, Michael, you are right now. Someone's going to have to be really, really good. With their text at 204-780-6868 to beat that one. My favorite all-time Bryan Little memory, December 6th, 2011, it's a 1-1 tie with the Boston Bruins. Early in the third period, Bryan scores an amazing unassisted goal, and I thought the roof was going to come off MTS Center, as it was known back then. Winnipeg wins that one 2-1. Exactly 1 week later, Bryan Little, again, now that one was about 5 minutes into the third period.
Right.
A week later, Bryan Little, with 5 minutes left in the third period, scores a great goal for a 2-1 win over the Minnesota Wild. And again, the decibel count would have had to be unbelievable for that. The overtime winning goal in the outdoor game in Regina.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up too as a highlight.
Yeah.
Him and Lowry, right?
Pardon me?
Him and Lowry.
It was Kyle Connor and Neil Pionk who set up the goal.
Okay.
Yeah, in overtime. Adam Lowry, actually, if memory serves me correct.
He scored one.
No, was it he or Josh Morrissey that got the 5-minute major and then wound up having to serve a suspension after that game? I'll have to double check on that. And then one of the most unselfish things Bryan Little has ever done, and I know Kevin Cheveldayoff has brought this up previously, but at the the March 2022 trading deadline, Bryan Little signed off on allowing his contract, there was 2 years plus the remainder of that season, to be traded off to the Arizona Coyotes at the time. And it wasn't so much the fourth-round pick that the Winnipeg Jets received for that, because I think there was somebody else involved in that deal as well. There was an actual player. But it was how much cap space it opened up for the Jets for the following 2 years, especially when in 24, when they picked up Sean Monahan and Tyler Toffoli. I know Kevin Cheveldayoff has said before, we would not have had the cap space available had Bryan Little not been as unselfish as he was.
And he did actually, just to correct us, the 2019 Heritage Classic in Regina, he scored the 2-1 overtime winning goal to win the Outdoor Classic.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Classic.
Pionk and I believe it was Pionk and Morrissey who set him up. I think.
I'll look up too. But that's another memory that stands out to me, because it was snowing, right?
Yeah,
the snow was coming down, and it was really cool.
Yeah. But just if you have any memories of Bryan Little that you want to share with us, or if you have any questions that you want us to ask Bryan Little when he joins us after the 12:30 news, 204-780-6868 is the text number. We addressed this on the pod exclusive, but of course the interesting news of the day, Jim, is the contract extension that the San Jose Sharks and Macklin Celebrini have agreed to. $18.8 million average annual value. Now, it won't kick in until the start of the 27-28 season. So Leo Carlsson, for the time being, still the highest paid player in the National Hockey League.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's more than Carlson, obviously, and but not much more. But then on the podcast we kick this around too. But one of the names we don't bring up on the podcast, Kelly, is Matthew Schaefer in New York with the Islanders, who can sign after this season on July 1st with another year of his ELC still intact.
Right.
But the one name that, and we even mentioned McCarr and McDavid and Austin Matthews and all that, nobody this summer is talking about Nikita Kucherov. And I wonder what he's going to get. And he's seeing these $18 million deals. I honestly don't think it'll be $18 million. I think that he's going to take less. But he's coming off a ticket that paid him $9.5, and he's the reigning Hart Trophy winner, right? Now, age is different, right? And that's what fascinates me about the Celebrinis and the Carlsons, all these players that are getting this, Bedard and what we're hearing for Cutter Gauthier, which he could get. What is Nikita Kucherov going to get? Now, I think it's going to be a bit of a discount because he's older and he's a veteran. He probably wants to stay in Tampa Bay. But with $18 million being thrown around, what is the Hart Trophy winner going to get?
Well, and how much is it going to cost him for his lack of goal-scoring production in the playoffs for Tampa Bay the last couple of years?
Well, I don't think that's going to cost him anything. I think he's the Hart Trophy winner, and he's a two-time Hart Trophy winner. He's a Stanley Cup champion. They already saw what happened when Steven Stamkos walked out the door. Mm-hmm. They already saw that he carries that team when Braden Point is injured.
Yeah. Or having an off year.
Yeah. And with Victor Hedman being out, it's all Nikita Kucherov.
Yeah.
So could he ask for $20 million? There's no doubt he could ask for it and probably get it. But if he wants to stay in Tampa, which I would assume he does, when he sees these young players and what they're getting, what do you pay Nikita Kucherov next year?
Well, if it's $20 million, it's going to be on a short-term deal because Nikita's getting up there.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
You just wonder, when all of a sudden Father Time is going to start to win that battle.
But good for Celebrini, right?
Oh, absolutely. And you could take a look down the road 2 or 3 years from now, and he will likely be the best player in the National Hockey League.
Yeah.
He's already in that conversation after the show that he put on at the Olympics. Hey, don't forget, the Boston Pizza Hotline is open and available 24/7 at 204-780-6800. We select a call of the week every Friday for
Free for All Friday.
And if it is yours, you know what? You can go into Boston Pizza for lunch every weekday, get a delicious main, a side, and a nice cold drink for only $15. $50 gift certificate. You could bring along Jim Toth and I. Well, no, you could.
Yeah.
You could probably
you could do it.
Bring along real friends.
Just do it.
But only at BP.
That's at noon on 680 CJOB.
Kelly Moore and Jim Toth with you. Just a reminder, Bryan Little will join us after the 12:30 news. And Dylan from Verdon, yes, we will indeed ask your question about who his favorite teammate was. If you had to predict, who do you think Bryan would say for that?
I think him and Andrew Ladd were pretty close, but I don't know who his favorite. He probably has lots. Everybody got a kick out of Buff.
Yep.
I know that they got a laugh out of that too, but he was pretty close with Wheeler and I'm trying to think of some of the younger players.
Yeah, I think you're onto something with Andrew Ladd. If I had to take a second guess, I think Chris Thorburn might be the guy.
Yeah, well, Chris Thorburn was a guy that everybody loved. Like
exactly.
Even Evander Kane. Like Evander Kane would him go over to his house for dinner and like Thorburn told me that once. He goes, I think Evander gets a bad rap. He's a really nice guy, and we've had him over a couple times and stuff.
Yep.
Everybody loved Chris Thorburn.
Of all the texts we received, you know what, Michael? You were first on the dot, and man, you were first on the spot. Text about the one-day contract that Bryan Little had indeed signed. So thank you for bringing back the reminder of that. And because you did such a great job on that text, you win the VIP car wash from Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road, and at washmethod.com. And we are coming to you live from the Boston Pizza Studio for gourmet pizza and pasta. Bring the team to Boston Pizza. Kelly Moore and Jim Toth, along with a very, very special guest joining us now from an undisclosed location. He can disclose it if he wants, but...
like a wrestler, parts unknown.
Yeah, exactly. Bryan Little, former Winnipeg Jet, joins us now. Bryan, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Good, Bryan.
Good. So how busy is the training schedule for triathlon these days?
Pretty busy. It's dying down a bit. I got a big race this weekend in Ottawa, actually.
How many races a year do you compete in, Bryan?
I usually do about 4 a summer. Pretty short summers in Canada, so there's only 3 or 4 months you can do races.
Yeah, I know there's a triathlete from our area. His name is Tyler Mislawchuk. He's from Oak Bluff, which is just to the south of the city. I'm wondering, because he's at the pro level, and I think you compete as an amateur still. Correct me if I'm wrong, but have you ever had a chance to cross paths with Tyler? Sorry for the pun.
No, I haven't. I've definitely heard of his name, though. Canada's got quite a few really good triathletes.
Just wondering how you're doing, Bryan. I know you're doing the triathletes and stuff. Anything else you're doing since you were retired and competing and training?
No, not really. Just like full-time dad, part-time triathlete. Just helping around the house when I can.
when I can. I'm sorry. I got to train. I can't vacuum today. That's not exactly. Yeah, for sure.
No, I make sure my training always comes second because I had quite a few years where my stuff was the priority. So I'm happy taking the back seat now.
Yeah, that's interesting too. You always hear that about when players retire, right? Like your career is so focused on your schedule and your timeline and all that it often becomes the other way around when you retire. Of course, the Heritage Classic's coming up, Bryan, and we last talked to you, when you were in town. Actually, you had done the ceremony and signed the one-day contract, and then moved on. I'm wondering now how you sort of look back at your career, and before we get into the alumni stuff, and obviously ended with the injury, which no player wants, but you must be pretty proud of everything you got accomplished. And how do you look back at your career?
Yeah, I look back at it fondly. I mean, ever since I was like 3 or 4 years old, that was my dream to play in the NHL, and I got to live out that dream for about 12 seasons. So I'm really happy with the way it went. I always think back on some of the highlights and the better times. But there's also times, especially watching playoffs and stuff every year. It definitely hurts not to got a chance to play for the Cup.
Yeah, you certainly came close in 2018. There's no doubt about that. Bryan, just before we get to a couple of questions for you here, a texter, Dylan from Verdun, wants to know who your favorite teammate was on the Winnipeg Jets. Jim guessed Andrew Ladd. I said, well, okay, I can't take Andrew Ladd because Jim's already taken him, so I went with Chris Thorburn. Are either of us correct?
I'm not going to choose a favorite, but those two guys are definitely my better friends from the team. I think I spent the most time with them. Thorburn especially, we go back to the Thrashers days. I think our first year with the Thrashers was the same year, so we played with each other a lot of our careers. Two great guys. Another one's Blake Wheeler. He's actually the person I've probably seen last in person. We went on vacation together probably about a year and a half ago.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Whereabouts did you go?
We went to Bahamas. I think it was during one of the school spring breaks, so the kids and stuff were there.
Oh, cool.
Two guys that still hate working out even after they're done playing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, everybody here is jacked about the reunion of the GST line. Can you put a call into Moneymakers Thorburn and see if he could take some time off from that highfalutin job he's got with St. Louis, and come and play in the alumni game, Brian?
I mean, I'm sure he'd love to. He was a big part of, the Jets coming back in those first few years, and the GST line, and those guys are legends.
Yeah. Brian, I wanted to ask you about something because I know, like you said, you wanted to play in the NHL since you were 4, and the goal is to do that, and then obviously win the Stanley Cup, and that goes by. But Blake Wheeler's joined us a couple times, including last week, and he referenced, coming from Atlanta into Winnipeg, and not just the transition of that, but seeing how the organization transitioned from what the Atlanta days were like into where you were a perennial playoff team and going to the Western Conference Final is something he looks back on with pride. That's not what, young boys set out to do in their careers, but what does it mean to you to be a big part of the fact that you not only came from Atlanta and were part of NHL returning to Winnipeg, but like establishing it into a winning organization? I don't think that's talked about enough amongst players. And how do you feel about that? And now that you look back on it, go, I was part of something that really, really grew and prospered during my time playing there.
Yeah, I think, coming from Atlanta, I think I was 6 games into my career in Atlanta, and I had my first coaching change. Bob Hartley got fired, and it was just kind of chaotic there the first few years. And when we made the move to Winnipeg, you could immediately tell the culture was different. Mark Chipman, he's a competitive guy. He loves to win. And, Chevy, same thing. Those guys are going to do everything they can to put a winning team together. And, it wasn't smooth sailing at first. It took a few years to get to that first playoffs. But I think once we got a taste of that, and, once we got some, really good young talent coming up like Scheifele and Morrissey and those guys, I think, we had a pretty special team and a really close-knit group that were capable of, some good things.
On the topic of those young players, Brian,
not young anymore.
No, they're not. No, and we won't even see where that leads you. But you had a chance. Jimmy just talked about the hand that you had in transforming this franchise into what it has been. But you were also there for the ground floor of the careers of guys like Nikolai Ehlers and Patrick Laine. Did you see Ehlers parading around in that yellow Lamborghini in Denmark with the Stanley Cup? I don't know how much time you spend on social media.
I didn't see that, but I did watch, quite a few games of the finals, and I was really happy for him. It was really cool to see him not just win, but actually he played fantastic in the playoffs. He's a big part of the reason they won. So
yeah,
that was really cool.
I'm trying to think. I think it might have been Game 2 or Game 3 where I think he turned that series around. And the other part of it, and this might be difficult for those of us on the outside to wrap our heads around. But did you ever have to talk to Nikolai to tell him, hey, listen, don't wear what happened that night against New Jersey any longer than you have? Because, if that happened to us in the office or whatever, Brian, some of us might have been completely ruined by that. So I'm just wondering what kind of conversations you had with Nick after that.
I think he knew. I know how bad he felt. Anyone would have felt bad, and I think we might have had one short conversation, and that was it. I mean, he knew it was out of his control. It was a freak accident, and I didn't. The last thing I wanted him to feel was really bad about it and it affect him. So, I told him it was cool. I mean, stuff like that happens. It's hockey. It's accidents like that happen.
Over the years, you and I, Brian, have had some really great conversations about the game, about fighting in the game, about the rules, and how the game is played. And you were always so insightful. I'm wondering now that you're watching the playoffs and you see some of these younger players like Celebrini and Bedard come into the league, what do you make of the game right now that you kind of sit back and watch it and take in the playoffs and see the speed of it and everything?
Yeah, it is hard to watch. and get that kind of feeling. I feel like it's so much easier to gauge it when you're in the game and, at ice level and being part of that. But yeah, I feel like the speed and just like the skill has kind of leveled up, especially in the last 5 or 6 years. And I feel like there's a lot more young players that can come in and be good right away. I feel like when I was coming into the league, it was a lot like the teams just felt a lot older, and it was really hard for like a young guy to get his foot in the door and get, just make the team and get an opportunity. Whereas now is like, and I don't know, the young guys just have so much skill and speed that they're able to step in right away and be effective.
Yeah. Would you ever consider being a part of the game again? Whenever we have ex-players on, it's always a question about, coaching, management. Do you miss the game at all that way? And do you ever see yourself maybe down the road when your family's older doing something like that? Or are you just kind of content of having played for that long and moving on?
It's not something I really think about. I mean, I'm pretty content with just being like a fan right now and watching games here and there. I don't know. It's weird. It's a weird feeling when you've like put your whole life into something and then it's over. It's kind of like for some people, they want to keep it going and want to stay in that life. And some people kind of want to flip the page and go to the next chapter. And right now I've kind of went the Paul Kariya route and flipped the page and went to the next chapter. But yeah, but I still love the game. I'm just not sure how much I'd want to be in it as part of my everyday life.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. I love that too. That's a lot of stuff we talked about when you play. Like, I don't watch a lot of other games. I love playing it, but I'm not that. And that's fair enough, right? Like you flip the page and you move on. But it's always interesting that transition when, as you said, since you were 4, you wanted to do it, and then all of a sudden it's over, right?
Yeah, I'm thinking strength and conditioning coach with the triathlon thing you got going right now, Brian.
maybe for the media, get them back in shape.
Yeah. Yeah. You know us for some of the questions that we asked you. Just got a couple more minutes here with Bryan Little. We started off the show, Brian, talking about our favorite all-time Bryan Little moments. And I've got a 2-for-1 special because you did it in back-to-back weeks. December 6, 2011, you score an unassisted goal about 5 minutes into the third period against Boston in a 2-1 win. And then exactly 1 week later, you score with about 5 minutes left in the game against Minnesota. I thought the roof was going to come off the building both of those nights.
I don't have as good a memory as some guys when it comes to this stuff. I don't remember the Boston one. I remember the Minnesota one. Yeah, because it was so late. I think there was like 3 seconds left. I remember that one really well.
Yeah. Anything in particular that struck you during your playing days here that is a memory that's forged forever?
It's hard to pick one. I mean, honestly, one of them is not even really like to do with, something I did, but like winning Game 7 in Nashville was like, one of the highlights of playing in Winnipeg. I was just like an unbelievable game and atmosphere. And I don't know.
That's fair enough. That's Bryan Little right there.
Yeah. How excited are you for the Heritage game? Not just come back and get on the ice, but be around some of the old guys again.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it a lot. I mean, some of these guys I haven't seen in forever and years, so it'll be really good to catch up with some of them. And I think I'm more excited just to see the guys. I might have to throw in my skates a couple times before I get out there.
We had Blake on last week, as Jim mentioned. He said he skated once, so he might have to up his training regimen a little bit too.
Yeah, I don't think I've been on my skates in like a year and a half. So,
will you be the only player riding the bike in the intermissions?
No, I'm gonna enjoy the weekend.
Yeah, we hear through the grapevine too, Brian, that the vest might be coming out of Claude Noel's closet. So we'll see if that happens. Thanks a bunch for taking time out of your busy housekeeping and training schedule to join us today on Jets at Noon. You are just an absolute treasure for this franchise.
Oh, thank you guys for having me.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Look forward to seeing you in the fall, and best of luck in Ottawa.
Thank you.
Bryan Little, man, and that doesn't surprise me, Jim, that he would not have any favorite memory for himself. It would be all about the team.
Yeah, he was always a team first guy, and that's what I remember too. Like he said, they went through some hard times, and the captains were always at the forefront. But if you ever wanted a different perspective, he was always more than willing to speak. And often after games when things didn't go well, I have a ton of respect for Bryan. I'm glad he's doing well in life.
Give you the break to think about this. A texter wants to know the dollar value for Josh Morrissey's next contract. We'll talk about that next on Jets at Noon. And lest you forget, I don't know how you could, but we have a Free-for-All Friday coming up. It'll be the 102nd Free-for-All Friday of Jets at Noon.
I love that you keep track.
I keep track.
It means a lot to me.
Yeah, well, it should. You've been around for most of them, if not all of them. But at any rate, that means we're going to be selecting a Boston Pizza Hotline Call of the Week. That number, once again, is 204-780-6800. Talk your way into a $50 BP gift certificate. And, of course, at Boston Pizza, you can come in for lunch every weekday to get a delicious main, a side, and a nice cold drink for only $15, only at BP. We went a little long with Bryan Little, so we don't have a whole bunch of time here. But there was a texter that wanted to know what you think Josh Morrissey's next contract is going to look like when the current one expires at the end of the 27-28 season.
Well, I think the floor is going to be Kyle Connor's $12 million, but making $6 million. Now, Josh is currently 31 years old. He'll be 32, close to 33 at the
March.
time. Yeah. I think it'd be a 5-year deal, and I think it's going to be around $14 million.
5 years at $14 million. Texter, mark that down and just see how close Jim Toth was. Another one as well. If offered a PTO, this is Cam, not Poitras. If offered a PTO from the Islanders and the Jets, who do you think Patrick Laine would choose?
The Islanders and the Jets?
Yeah, if it came down to between the Islanders and the Jets for a PTO.
I think he would choose Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had his greatest success here. He had his only 82-game seasons here.
I think he liked it here, too, like off the ice and stuff. So now I think he would look at both rosters and go, where could I play? But and that's another reason why I think that he could look at this and go, there's a spot in the top 6 on the right side if they wanted to move some guys around or not. But then he might, Velarde and Perfetti are here.
Yeah.
So he might look at the Islanders and go, there's a spot in the top 6 that I can take. It depends what he wants to be his role at and stuff. But
he may not. He may have to be a beggar and not be too choosy.
Yeah, I think he might avoid the PTO and get like a really low base 1-year salary or something.
Big thanks to Bryan Little for joining us. And, of course, you can talk to him personally during the Alumni Weekend coming up October 24th and 25th. That is it for a Hump Day edition of Jets at Noon. Noah Fuchs is standing by with the 1 o'clock news. Jim Toth with the Jim Toth Show from 1 to 2. Jeff Forte, as always, knocking balls out of the park with more regularity than even Shohei Ohtani. As we always like to say,
he's the Yordan Alvarez of CJOB.
I thought he was old Mexico, old hot Mexico.
He is old hot Mexico.
He is old hot Mexico.
Batting wise, he's the Yordan Alvarez.
Thank you for making Jets at Noon part of your day.